compare with pure imagination. Living there, you'll be free if you truly wish to.
Amber, before we get into pure imagination, why don't you share some of your early musical background that brought you to this project?
Oh, sure. So, started with my parents. They both grew up in Harlem, and they were both musical. My mom was always like a classical type singer, and she took piano lessons early on. My father, he grew up in a house where there was music. In fact, I'm told that my aunt Winnie, who's the aunt just above him in age, she was taking piano lessons, and like at 5 years old, my father just like went to the piano and played everything she had learned, but he played it by ear. Um, Daddy went to music and art in New York City, and a lot of famous people came out of there. In fact, a couple years behind him was Diane Carroll. And he he sang, he played the trombone, he sang in nightclubs in the 50s. He was like a Frank Sinatra clone. As we were growing up, we were surrounded by other audiophiles and musicians and dancers and singers. And so it was just always there. It was always there. My dad had wonderful stories about the diner my grandparents owned and how he served fried egg sandwiches to Duke Ellington. The other famous musicians who'd come in there, Lena Horne lived around the corner from the diner. It was just there. It was just in the air.
Wow, it must have been incredible being around such talented influences while you were growing up. I'm sure you must have picked up some of your inspiration from some of these artists.
Oh, yeah, a lot of them, a lot of them. Um, I mentioned Diane Carroll. A lot of people forget that she was a singer. In addition to being a great actress and an Oscar nominated actress, she won a Tony in the early 60s for her role in No Strings, which was on Broadway. And growing up, I saw her on television singing. I certainly saw her as an actress, but she was a big one. Um, the recordings of Barbara Streisand in the early 60s were things that I heard. We certainly heard Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan and Ray Charles and Frank Sinatra and Duke Ellington's music. We heard all of it. It was a big thing for my family. So yeah, there are a lot of folks. Oh, Shirley Bassey. I forgot about Shirley Bassey. Shirley Bassey was important to my parents as well. My parents, my great grandfather, no, my grandfather is from Veracruz, Mexico, but he's half Mexican and half Jamaican. My father's parents are from Barbados and Jamaica. Shirley Bassey, while she grew up in England, one of her parents was from the West Indies, and so she was someone that was important to my parents. So all of those people, and some others I can't think of right now. I don't know if I mentioned Lena Horne. Certainly, she was part of that. Um, so I had all of those influences. Oh, of course, Oscar Brown Jr. Was a big one too. He's a bit of a jazz storyteller, and he's actually someone I got to know later in his life.
How did you begin your own musical career?
Well, you know, it seems like I always say. I mean, there's a picture somewhere. I don't think I have it. I think one of my sisters, my mom has it, but like at 4, you know, I'm standing on my parents' coffee table, and my sister Dawn is standing next to me, and we're both singing, and I always knew that I wanted to be a singer. So over time, I did a lot of different things. Yeah, I sang in clubs in school. I was in musical comedy workshop in high school, and then as an adult, I started studying more seriously. So I started studying with Phil Moore and his wife Jeannie Moore. Learned a little bit about how you put a show together, and then I took private voice lessons from Katherine Hanson. And actually, early on, I studied with Gwen Wyatt. I had a couple of, she's like an opera singer, and I had like a couple lessons with her, but like seriously was Katherine Hanson, and then Sue Fink, and then for the last almost 20 years I've been studying with three-time Grammy nominee Sue Rainey, who's also a great friend. And actually, she and I do a duet on my current project.
So, I'm sure you sang in public and in front of an audience. What was that like?
Oh my gosh. Um, it's wonderful. I mean, the first time I did it, I was 14, and it was something at school, and I did Summertime from Porgy and Bess. Um, but I've been singing in nightclubs for many years, and I've performed at places like the Jazz Bakery, where I appeared a couple of times. I was a recurring artist at the Sky Room in Long Beach. I got the opportunity to be featured with the Galib Galab Trio in Las Vegas at the Terrazza Lounge. So those are some of the places that I've performed. Oh yeah, and then I did open one year for the New Rochelle Jazz Festival in New York State.